That's fine. I've got the it's the loading panel.
All right.
It's not actually as
Not-
on full
Not
display
yet.
just yet.
Let's see if I can do this.
Hello! Hopefully you can all see us.
Hey,
Please someone tell me you can see us and we're not just shouting into the void. In any case, welcome to Nisei's first ever live stream. I am Serenity, the community manager. With me is David, the lead developer, and Morgan, associate developer and playtest coordinator. We are here to cover some of your questions and stuff about the system gateway, which for those of you who have just tuned in not knowing what we're talking about, that's the new player product that is the next thing that we are working on. So little bit of admin stuff. I will be monitoring the future channel on Slack and the chat here, so if you have any questions, slap them in there and I will collate them and we will get to them a little bit later. So okay, so Aki can't see us but everyone else can, so sorry Aki, we will carry on with that. So without further ado, let me bring up my big list of questions that we already got sent, if I can find where I put it. There we go. So before we start, do you two want to give a overview of what you do for Nisei. Everyone knows what I do. I talk about the stuff that you do. So.
You mind if I kick off, Morgan?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm David slash Debatus. I am the head of the dev team, which is comprised of again me, Morgan, who's also the playtest coordinator, Xenos, who's one of the integral glue pieces that keeps making sure that playtest materials. What?
Morgan, if your speakers might be picking up David's words and creating a big echo. So, how's that, chat people?
I will
Morgan
pause.
has muted. Are we good? Oh, David, keep talking. See, and
Okay, sure. Okay, cool. So we have myself, Morgan, and Xenos, and we recently acquired Zoe, who is fantastic. We love having her on. She.
Okay, so David, it's whenever you speak, it's echoing. So it might be. If there's any speakers on your laptop or PC that are switched on, you might be picking something up.
Is it still continuing?
Is it still going?
Is the echo still something that is heard?
Okay, chat, can you still hear the echo? Yeah, David is double feeding. Oh. Okay. So,
Is it happening when I'm talking as well? Are you getting like a double of me talking about? Talking at all? It could be two audio input stuff.
okay, Morgan's echoing too.
Yeah, it's probably on your end then, surrounding.
That's interesting. Okay, let's have a look, see what we've got. Desktop audio is down.
Just first time streaming.
Oh, yes, fun and games. Right, I'll tell you what I'll do. I will...
Okay, sure. So we recently got Zoe on our team as well. It's fantastic. And also helps out the Deep Dream. So you will no doubt be seeing some of her work pretty shortly in Uprising, and I imagine the future as well. Generally speaking though, Dev, our job is to once design works on prototypes alongside creative for the initial vision of a set. Dev, we get our hands on it and start breaking things and trying to make sure things aren't broken. So, yeah, that's the very general and not terribly eloquent rundown, but.
I muted myself because I thought it was me. So, what I will do is I will switch between David and Morgan, muting and unmuting them when they wish to talk. So,
Okay.
Are we all back now? Everything good? You should be able to hear me and David. David, do you want to talk?
Yep, I'm continuing to talk. For what it's worth, that was the cessation of my opening spiel. So, Morgan, jump in whenever.
Right, now I will mute David and unmute Morgan. Okay, there we go. Trials and tribulations of your first ever stream. Okay, Morgan, over to you. Do you want to describe what you do here at Project Nisei?
Yeah, so as David mentioned, I'm one of the associate developers. So I also work on everything from when we get all the prototypes and stuff from design, all the way through to when we like do the final handoff of the set to the rules and editing team and that sort of thing. I also work with basically any sort of external input that we have on set testing and set development. So I've worked with, we've only got one champion card so far, but I worked with the person whose card that was, and I'll be doing that with all the other champs going forwards. And then, of course, there's all the playtest team. So I work as playtest coordinator, which is basically just managing and directing and talking with and communicating with and getting all the data and feedback from all of the playtest team that we have. And I manage all the recruitment and all the stuff to do with that as well. I also do a little bit of a bunch of other things, like I do some writing and I will do some article stuff. And I don't know, basically anything that I feel like I end up doing.
Too many spinning plates. Too many. Okay. Okay, that is all good. Name is David / Devatus. I'm the head of dev, and generally speaking, as Morgan just covered, dev from when design has given us initial prototypes that they have worked out between them and creative. Dev works through a set all the way through to basically until we determine, hey, our work here is done, and it can go through to formatting and art. So dev team is comprised of me, Morgan, Xenos, and our newest addition, Zoe, who also does Deep Dream, and you are likely to see some of her fantastic work shortly. So.
Okay, cool. So that is Dev in a nutshell. I will now pass you over to Morgan, who is going to tell us all a little bit more about System Gateway. Over to you, Morgan.
Okay, I guess it's the thing that everyone has been waiting for, is hearing what the deal with this whole System Gateway thing is. So, first and foremost, one little caveat I need to add at the start is I'm going to probably use a bunch of different terms for different things. None of that is set in stone except for the fact that this whole set is called System Gateway. Whatever else I end up calling things, like, none of that is set in stone yet, and I'm probably going to keep calling the same thing by different names as it runs in my head. Okay, so System Gateway, first and foremost, is intended to be a new player-oriented product in a similar way to which the original FFG core set was. It was, here is a box, you can get it, and in that box is going to be a bunch of cards for all the different factions. You can make decks with it and play with it as a self-contained experience, and it's going to contain a lot of stuff that is very, like, fundamental, very sort of building blocks of the start of your collection, the things that you're going to be able to use for the entirety of your Netrunner playing, timeline or whatever. And I guess probably the best point to split here is that the thing that we're intending to do here is that this is kind of like an evolution from the from the original core set concept. The original core set concept was, here are a bunch of cards from all the different factions, and you can sort of put them together and kind of make decks that mostly work, but you're not really going to get a particularly either balanced or nuanced Netrunner experience until you actually do some of your own deck building. and it worked pretty fine for like original FFG system. But there have been a lot of other like living card games or card games since then. Probably one of my favorite examples being like Doomtown, which have had a more sophisticated take on introducing new players to an actual game. And we're hoping to be able to effectively like do that kind of thing as well. So, System Gateway comes in two parts, in two packs. You can buy these both together, or you can get them separately. If you get them both all combined together, you will get a full playset of all cards. We're not going to have any of the, you only get two of a playset or whatever, like has happened in previous core sets. But the first part of these is the intro decks. These are just two 30-card for runner, 34-card for corporation decks that come pre-built on their own, ready to play as soon as you take them out and just shuffle them up and you can go. They both have IDs that are they are neutral IDs with infinite influence and a 30-card minimum deck size. And they just work straight out of the box. You can play with both of these as much as you like, and then also in this intro decks pack will be a further 10 cards for each deck that players can add on once they feel comfortable with the game. And these will contain some slightly more advanced cards, another 4 agenda points for the corporation as well, and that sort of thing. And so the entirety of this intro decks pack is 84 cards plus the two neutral identities, and then probably also some little cards with instruction stuff and help stuff. We haven't quite yet worked out the details of what the sort of additional information stuff will be in System Gateway. A lot of that is based on how big we can actually have a product to be on, say Make playing cards or things like that. We'll work out a lot of this sort of logistical stuff as we go along, but the basic concept for this intro decks pack is the two decks with the 10 extra cards each, and they are designed to be balanced against each other and something that new players can grapple with and understand immediately from the get-go. So that's the first half, roughly, of System Gateway. The other half is the deck building pack, we kind of refer to it as. And the deck building pack is effectively what's going to take the intro decks pack from a kind of dual decks style head-to-head thing to being more like the original FFG core set. So it introduces all the deck building rules. There won't be anything about the deck building rules in the decks pack. First off, the deck building pack will fill in all of the remaining copies of all the playsets of cards in the two decks. There will also be another 7 identities, 1 for each faction, all of them 40 card minimum, none of the runners have link, and they all have IDs and 15 influence as well. And then there'll be another, I don't remember the actual number off the top of my head, but I think currently we're looking at a total of around, it's mid-70s for new cards. I think it's mid-70s for new cards. And finally, probably the thing that everyone else has been all really waiting for is all of the cards in System Gateway, except the 2 blank neutral IDs, are standard legal. That's probably also the other big thing. So we probably had a lot of people wondering, so if this is a new player-oriented product, where does it fit into the current meta? And the main thing is that, so us at NISA, we only have so many resources. We're only able to put out sort of packs so often and of a certain kind of size. So if we dedicate an entire release to being a new player product, what does that mean for all our established players? What does that mean for shaping and changing the current meta? So yes, we have also had to ensure that the cards that are in System Gateway are compatible and playable and usable in the standard meta as well. I'm seeing a lot of questions in chat, and we will get to these.
Everything you've asked so far is already on our list of things to talk about, so don't worry.
Yeah, either we'll be answering them later in our Q&A at the end, or like we will be getting to them. Yeah, so I believe we can say that there are 4 reprints at the moment, and it'll probably only be 4 reprints. It's probably like not much of a spoiler to say what they are. It's Hedge Fund, Sure Gamble, oh, what a surprise, Special Order, and SEA Source. Those are the 4 reprints in System Gateway as of right now. Yeah. Not completely locked in. That could change. But otherwise, all of the other cards are completely new. And I'm pretty excited about quite a lot of them. We've had a very, very interesting time finalizing the prototyping stage in the last like sort of month or so. Yeah, so that's like that's basically the main like crux of the actual setup for System Gateway. There's probably some people wondering why we've got it like split into 2 halves, and the answer for that is really simple. By having a single just Hero 2 decks, it's almost like just buying a board game. You just get these 2 things you can immediately play together. It allows us to have like the smallest possible price point for players who are just interested in trying out the game, but maybe not going like, you know, launching themselves straight into the ice cold baptism bath that is, you know, Greater Netrunner. And then the deck building pack is there for if they feel ready to go. But you can also buy them both together if you just want to go straight into it, or of course for established players who just want the cards. The other useful thing about having like the dual decks purchasable on their own is that it allows like stores or, you know, local metas to order extra copies just to have on hand, either to like, you know, sell to interested new players, or just to have around for demonstrations and stuff like that, so they're all already put together. Yeah, I guess probably the last thing that I kind of wanted to say was like a little bit about what like the intro, like what the actual intro decks are like. They are intended to be pretty straightforward in terms of like what kind of mechanics they include. There's no bad publicity. There's no brain damage. Trying to think what else, like other stuff that's like, there's none of the like the really advanced stuff. Like there's no doubles or triples. No terminal. The runner doesn't have a console to begin with. We're trying to be fairly low on the amount of unique cards or things that just have very specific and sort of more obscure rulings or like functionality, stuff that might only be specific to a couple of cards in the whole of System Gateway. We want to try and avoid having too much of that stuff in the 2 starter decks. But the deck building pack, however, will have like actually a lot more in terms of like some of the more advanced mechanics and stuff that will, you know, allow new players to begin to get more of an understanding on the sheer breadth of stuff that you can find in Netrunner. I think that's basically it, I guess, unless Dave wanted to add anything on. And we're also just going to pass over to him, and he's going to talk about System Core 2020 as well.
Right, swapping him over. Right, take it away, David.
I'm audible again.
You are indeed.
Okay.
You're out of the quiet zone.
So again, Morgan, I think you touched on most of what I guess as the introductory points pertaining to System Gateway I think are important. We can touch on more later as we address specific questions in chat, and pre-given questions. I guess at this juncture, I think I want to talk about how system core, so the role of system core moving forward, because system gateway does not make the system core just as a concept redundant. What it does do is system gateway replaces a system core's role in terms of the self-contained experience, and as the first point of purchase of here is a strong base of, again, highly playable, highly fundamental set of cards with reasonably straightforward application. So for the sake of system cores, what it does mean, the existence of system gateway means that system core, we are allowed more flexibility in how we use system cores in future to shape the standard environment and the wider card pool. So in System Core 2019, there are a number of slots that are somewhat chaff-ish. Pipeline's not a very good card, and I don't think that's a terribly controversial statement to say. Its purpose in System Core 2019 is because as the self-contained experience, we wanted to make sure that each faction has access to a breaker of each type. However, with Gateway serving that purpose of the standalone pick up and play, System Core doesn't need to do that anymore. So some of the more filler type cards that were necessary given the self-contained experience component can be removed and replaced with cards that we think are actually more important and better serving of the standard environment moving forward, which is noteworthy because there will be further rotation occurring, and thus the need to potentially save or reprint cards. There are more cards, hence the removal of some of the less essential filler cards, again, gives us more flexibility with regard to System Core. So I guess I'm going to preempt a question, both because it was actually originally, I was going to touch on it here. The other significance of System Core is, alongside System Gateway, the new core experience format will be comprised of System Gateway and System Core. So System Core does still have something of an introductory role in that it also includes, a fair number of just fundamental Netrunner cards. Some of the cards are more archetypal support, more niche in application, but a number of them are just additions that are relevant within the core experience format, which is again the intermediary format between, I guess, full-blown standard with access to an entire card pool and Gateway. Yeah, I think honestly that's most of what I guess is the introductory bit pertaining to Core's role moving forward. In short, though, the core, System Core, absolutely still has a function, and will be. There will be a System Core 2020. And I'm personally actually quite excited for what we're able to achieve with it, in light of the fact that System Gateway is now something that allows core to be more useful at actually achieving its intended purpose. Over to you, Ren.
Cool, thank you very much. Right, so that is system core purpose. Right, we were planning on having a brief conversation between David and Morgan about general dev chat, lessons learned from Downfall and Uprising, but as they cannot talk at the same time, that would be quite difficult. I mean, I could keep trying to swap you backwards and forwards, but that...
my inclination, if you want to make me audible again...
You're still audible.
Okay, cool. My inclination is probably, I guess, mix those amongst the question and answer segment so that we can add our own input pertaining to Morgan said this, I guess I will just touch on this, and Dave said this, and I will further elaborate here.
Okay, so should we go at the Q&A then, I guess? What I will do is I will ask one of you a question, get an answer from the other, ask the next question to that person again, and then switch back. So you get like half questions each, as it were. Okay, so as you're already audible, David, we will start with you. Will System Gateway mean that you developed price support aimed at System Core Gateway plus Gateway tournaments, and will this affect the number of standard tournaments? While System Gateway sounds like fantastic news, do you reckon we need a Nisei official intermediate format players have been asking for to fill the gigantic gap between System Gateway and Standard?
I guess I'm glad that it was planned. I'm glad that what I just mentioned regarding core experience largely answers that question, in that I think core experience is actually a very, like, how it's being envisioned moving forward, I think is a very effective intermediate format, in that it involves a larger card pool than Gateway alone. Again, is intended to just pick up and play. It's, you can, it's very much a lot of fundamentals and a positive restrictive card pool, in that the room for shenanigans are less, which is, again, for the sake of, as a learning experience, it's a good thing. Core experience, it doesn't have quite the breadth of a standard, the standard format, but it still has substantially larger than just Gateway alone, and thus, I guess, helps to bridge that gap between purely Gateway and Standard. Regarding affecting the number of Standard tournaments, we've been doing core experience throughout 2019, core experience support, and I'm sure that will continue. So yeah, I don't foresee that it will have an adverse effect in terms of making standard support, reducing standard support. There will still be price support aimed for core experience.
Just to add to that, so all of the store champs and above will still be standard legal only. Gateway or Gateway plus core are an option for your G&K if that's what your local TO wants to run, and you know, it's an option, but for everything else it's still standard. So, you know, it's I chatted with OP earlier on, and it's not going to impact on the number of standard online events or anything that we do. So you don't have to worry, your tournaments are not going to go away just because we're being nice to the noobs. Right, let's switch over to Morgan. Right, so is there anything you want to add to that, Morgan, before we move on to the next question? Oh, you've gone. Are you there now?
Morgan, please.
Sorry, I had myself muted because apparently people can still hear me typing even when you have me muted. So I've no idea. This probably has something to do with the whole echo thing, but I'm incredibly confused. Yeah. So there's echo, but I'm alright. So there's something really weird going on.
Is there echo now? If you want to talk, Morgan.
Is there any echo right now at this very moment?
No. Okay. Cool.
Like,
far away.
Nobody can hear. Okay. All right. I guess you managed to figure out what was causing it then, to some degree. I guess you could try unmuting Dave and see what happens now.
Should we have a go? Right. David.
May as well try this out.
Maybe is this going to be a complete catastrophe?
Is the echo please no. Come on, chat. Let us know how we're doing.
Yeah. Is there any echo now?
Okay. Yes, there is echo. All right. Okay. So, Morgan.
Okay. I guess we'll just have to figure this out in the future. All right. I was trying to figure out the whole keyboard thing, so I only heard some of what you were saying. So if I double up a little bit here, Dave, I'm sorry. Yeah. So the whole idea of a sort of intermediate. The idea of a gateway affecting standard tournament stuff. No, definitely not. I mean, that would never be our intention. If anything, we would just be able to add stuff on, but. The reality is that we already have, the core experience stuff, and if anything, core experience is just going to be a little bit expanded by having not only Core 2020 but also, System Gateway as well. Pretty much. I guess I can just go on to the next question that we have.
Okay. The next question is, right. If I am a new player starting from scratch, what do I need to buy in order to be competitive in tournaments?
Right. Well, basically, the intended sort of order for new player purchases is to be first up, System Gateway. Whether they get the decks on their own and then the deck building pack, or both together. That's the first, going to be the first stop for any new player into the game. In fact, I would want to say that they get that before they even consider the idea of buying someone's old collection or anything like that. And it is actually quite intended that players should be able to take decks built entirely from System Gateway cards to a local game night kit or just casual night, and they'll be able to take decks that will actually be competitive in terms of potency or usefulness of each individual card in their deck. We don't intend to have any cards that are kind of semi-dead draws or not, less useful versions of cards that exist in standard. We're definitely not after anything like intending to have any cards in there or anything like that.
Cool.
Sorry, I'm just seeing stuff in the chat about weird pre-echo stuff, and it keeps confusing me. So I'm just progressively unplugging more of my nearby technology.
Yeah, I'm muting everything as I go along. All my speakers are switched off, as far as I'm aware. Let's just check. Right, let's do one last check for things that should be shutting the hell up.
The pre-echo's gone now.
Okay.
I don't know. What? I'm just going to keep going.
Yeah, fair.
Okay, cool. All right, that's sweet. Okay, yeah. So after you get System Gateway, then hopefully it'll be time for System Core 2020, and that should then essentially take players from having like decent and playable and sort of mostly competitive decks from System Gateway and effectively inject a bunch of versatility and more options, more space for having different kinds, like even more archetypes that they can potentially make out of that. And then basically from there, I guess, I don't know, I guess the first thing we'd probably say after that is getting Ashes, getting Downfall and Uprising. And then after that, they can just look into figuring out what they want to do about existing non-rotated FFG sets. Whether they just want to proxy them, whether they want to try and get someone's collection, that sort of thing. But by having a direct route for new players to go, here is one product, here is another one, and here are two more that they can just get directly from us before needing to muck around with trying to find discontinued cards. I think that's going to be kind of tremendous. And I think this actually reminds me of something else that we are actually able to say. Somebody in chat just asked it, and I can't remember if Dave covered it earlier, but we are intending that System Core 2020 will have a print-on-demand version. You will be able to buy it in much the same way that you can get all of the rest of our stuff. Very exciting.
Yep.
It'll have entirely all new art. All of the art will be new. All of the assets will be new. The only thing that will be the same is what the cards do. We'll obviously be updating them to work within our new rules format, our new templating, all of that sort of thing. But yeah, we are actually already working on Deep Dream art for it's 95-ish% of System Core will be done by our in-house Deep Dream people, who are absolute champions and incredibly wonderful. And I mean, I am constantly very impressed with the work they do. And they've done some wonderful pieces. I'm really looking forward to Uprising getting out there, because there's some really phenomenal bits of art done by them. And it's going to be very exciting to have all of System Core done by them as well. And I might even have a piece in there. I am already working on something, so we'll have to see. The one thing that we probably won't be doing Deep Dream for is the runner identities, and that's about it. Yeah. I think that's basically. I mean, I've sort of answered a little bit more than just that question, but I guess I'll pass back to Dave, and we can go on to the next one. I see.
All right, Dave, you're audible again now. Is there anything you wanted to add to what Morgan said, or are you ready for the next question?
Kick off with the next one. Again.
Okay.
Morgan is very good at answering in precisely the amount of verbiage necessary, and just a little more.
You recruited well. I understand that you're making a complete set of new cards for this one, but are you also making new tokens for credits, advancements, counters, click trackers, etc.? Is this going to be packaged in a box and sold? I think NPC do this in that sort of way.
Yeah, so that's one that, again, unfortunately, I have to do the corporate speak answer, which is this is not something that we are equipped to answer yet. Because, again, it's at this stage, we're still in the development process. And, yeah, the specifics of how the set is going to be released, we're certainly thinking a lot about how to try to make sure that this is as much of a pick up and play standalone format that can be just self-sufficient, just self-contained. I'm certainly not the expert in this regard, but yeah, I know that novel ideas are being considered, retaining to having resources available for this beyond just this is a set of cards. Yeah.
Yeah, I did in fact just see something quite interesting come up in one of the channels on the Nisei Slack while I was briefly clicking backwards and forwards between questions. So we have ideas. Let's see if they pan out.
Yeah,
We haven't done any
exactly.
of this stuff before, so
That is a
we will certainly be trying to do something token-wise to like get someone up and running. We will see. The next question's already been answered. As the next question, will it rotate?
Is that still me?
Yep, you're still up. So
Okay, sure. Yeah. So will it rotate? Honestly, it's not something presently in consideration, given that, I mean, if it does, so currently it is envisioned as just, it's an addition to, the playable products, which is to say, currently rotation occurring chronologically in the sense of oldest two products rotate first. So assuming yes, it's not going to rotate for a long time. So yeah, presently we're not having considerations pertaining to the impact of it rotating. I think a product like this, we have agreed that this is something important for the game, and in the event of it rotating, it's certainly something would be filling its place as a fundamental experiential and introductory pick up and play experience. I think I'm going to tie this into one of the, I guess, quite a similar point, which is the will system gateway refresh or update in the same way that system cores do? And again, the answer to that is currently no. It's not being designed as a pull things out, put things back. That is very much something that system core is and will continue to be used as a tool to shape and reshape and revitalize standard by injecting new cards from time to time, removing cards from the pool, saving and choosing not to save accordingly. System Gateway, again, is currently being designed as standalone. It's not being planned as something to be refreshed or updated. So, yeah. Again, pretty excited about it myself and the implications thereof.
cool. Right, I will throw one more question at you that is not a fact question, and then we can switch back to Morgan to get their answer on it as well. What was the design philosophy behind System Gateway?
Design philosophy surrounding System Gateway. Let me see what notes I've scrolled on this. Honestly, it's touching a lot on what Morgan has already said. The set was designed. I'm also sure I'm paraphrasing from design here, but I know that they have communicated their vision to us. The design philosophy was an approachable, easy, clear entry point for new players to get into the game, to learn how to play it, even if they don't have someone else, like a base to help them with. It's, intended as a strong starting point, for newer players to, I guess, begin their experience, their Netrunner experience, and also, again, pertaining to what Morgan mentioned, it's I think probably something that will be slightly different to how core experience and System Core 2019 I touched on before. The lack of filler or the lack of sort of chaff type cards is simple but strong. Des said exactly that same thing in the chat. Yeah, the the cards are designed to be not just slightly worse versions of cards in the standard card pool. They are cards that we want players to be able to have in their decks, both competitively oriented and players who actually that's their first and perhaps only purchase, and to be able to go, oh, I'm not at a massive disadvantage because I have the gateway cards, which are clearly below curve. No, they're going to be, if anything, like that, set something off that established curve in line with where we want standard to be. Yeah.
Cool. Right. Switch back to Morgan. Anything to add to those questions, Morgan?
Yeah. So that's right. Yeah. So about the whole idea of like, will it rotate or will it refresh or get updated or anything like that? And essentially, that's a question that tackles something that is relative to right now, like a long way in the future, and we don't really have too much of an idea what like the further future exactly holds for Nissa yet. Like, we have an idea of what maybe the next two sets after System Gateway will be about, but I mean, a lot of the nature of having a community project style thing is we have to play things relatively by the ear, and maybe like a year and a half in advance. So thinking about whether System Gateway will like rotate or have any sort of update or anything like that is pretty much something we just don't have the brain space to really be thinking about right now. It's certainly something that isn't out of the realm of possibility, but it's also something that we haven't been considering yet, just because of how like far away it is. Yeah. Somebody in the chat did ask, like, if we end up having any like huge problem cards, down the line after release, would we update it then? The answer to that is honestly no, probably not just for that. Because it's really hard to change, like go back and change physical cards. Do we really want to like release an updated version of it and then have new players show up at events with like an older copy and now the cards are changed? It just gets really messy. So we would just rely on the most wanted list to fix things up for standard if that ends up being the case. But also, we're gonna playtest the heck out of it. Like playtesting is a very vital part of our entire process. We've been getting better at it. We've been getting more playtesters, and also, more importantly, more consistent playtesters over time as well. I've been working with our playtest team for close to a year now, since I like properly took over as playtest coordinator, and there are a lot of people there now who are. I know them really well. I know what stuff they're going to focus on really well. I know what kind of feedback to expect from different people, what sort of stuff they're going to focus on, and how to like guide playtest in terms of like where they should focus and things like that. Like, this has been a huge learning experience for me personally, because I have obviously I am a game developer by like actual profession. That is my job, but I've never worked with physical games before. I've done QA stuff before. It's always been for digital. So working with a physical medium and the permanency of that and the discrete nature of like individual cards has been really different. And I mean, probably the big thing is just we have become better at making these things and testing these things and finding out how they work and what sort of dangers there could be down the road with each individual card. So for me to think about, oh, what are we going to do if, a card ends up being, really broken or whatever in the future is not something I can afford to think about, because my goal is to just prevent that from happening in the first place, even to begin with. So, yeah, and I know there are going to be there's a question in the chat right now. Are we going to have these these permanent cards that are going to stick around for ages that are really strong, and will they constrain design space? That's part of the intent of how we've put about the set. It's part of the design intent for this. We don't want to have any cards that are necessarily going to do that, because it tends to be that the cards that do that are ones that are often a lot more niche. They have relatively specific purposes. Stuff like Power Tap. When it was first printed, Power Tap was basically binder fodder. It didn't have any real consistent use. It was only when cards started getting created that allowed runners to trigger it repeatedly on their own rather than the court doing so that it became an actual issue. We're hoping not to make any cards that are like Power Tap, where that they don't really have a generic, easily identifiable purpose and role in the game until you add a handful of cards that interact with it really specifically. That's just not very good for a new player product. To begin with, we don't want super niche cards in System Gateway at all. We just want cards that are generally playable, overall useful, and that aren't the only way that they might constrain design space in the future is just that, I don't know, maybe we don't want to make another Shaper draw card because we've made yet another, or draw event because we've maybe made yet another Shaper draw event in System Gateway because it's a relatively basic form card. That sort of thing.
But the other thing to remember on that front is that you've got the MWL, so we don't have to change Gateway. If we're worried about if it's still fine within the Gateway product, we can leave it as is and just put the problem card on the MWL. So
exactly.
Someone buying it, just playing it around their friends who doesn't have the rest of the standard card pool, it's never going to be a problem for them. Why would we remove it if it works quite well? So
yeah, exactly. This is Dave and I were originally going to have kind of a bit of a chat of how our development methodology works, what sort of stuff do we do with actual sets. But obviously the weird echo thing is a bit preventative there. We'll have to try and do that in the future, or maybe we'll have an article or something about it.
What we can do is we can at some point have a little chat. I'll record it and then I'll transcribe it and we'll turn it into an article.
Yeah, we could always do that too. Yeah, we'll figure it out. But anyway, what I was going to say though was, we, generally speaking, something that we have discovered over the course of working on Downfall and Uprising is that developing balancing cards with the concern of will they interact with this other card in a way that's going to be bad, and then changing them to not do that it's basically fighting a losing battle. It's not really something that we can easily do, and realistically speaking, it's actually not something that we should do or should have to do, and it's not really our place to. The purpose of having an organized play team who manage the NWL is that if there are problems in the standard card pool, we can address them via that system. We don't have to constantly be double and triple checking every single card that we make as we're balancing it to ensure that some ultra niche problem isn't going to arise, because as soon as we start doing that, we just triple development time, and I don't think anybody wants that. So again, you can pretty much always answer the question of, are we concerned about making cards that end up being broken in standard with? Of course we are, and we don't want to, but if we do, we've got the MWL to sort that out. yeah, that's pretty much it. And I guess sort of the final little thing on like will we refresh it or rotate it or whatever it is, you can basically just slot System Gateway in a lot, just after Uprising in terms of when rotation might happen of it. So yeah, like when when we rotate like Rain and Reverie or Katara or whatever, then yes, we might start thinking, do we want to update System Gateway when it's its turn to rotate? Do we want to do that, or will it be unnecessary? We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. It's a while away, essentially.
Yeah, we've got a lot of FFG boxes and cycles to rotate first.
Yeah, exactly. And while we have had maybe more of an accelerated rotation schedule, we are to some degree trying to shrink the card pool while also making it denser. It's definitely been our intention with. Well, it's intention with Downfall, but it's been even more of our intention with Uprising is to try and print as few chaff and binder photo cards as possible. We want to have, every card that we make and print being evergreen, useful in some way, in some deck. And, we're not always going to manage to do that, but the goal is to have fewer binder fodder cards than any like FFG cycle did, essentially. And that allows us to shrink the card pool while still having a roughly, comparable or roughly the same sort of size number of playable cards. Yeah. What's the next question, I'll say? Because I guess I'll tackle that as well.
Okay. Covered a lot of these already. So, okay. Do they still play to 7 points with a 30-card deck?
Ooh, probably not. One of the things about like introductory games or like tutorial systems for any sort of game is you actually want them to be relatively short. You don't want them to go on for very long. The longer any sort of tutorial or game goes on for, the shorter the attention span of players go on. Like this is a pretty straightforward like design conceit, and there's a lot of psychology behind this, and obviously not every person is going to be the same, but we need to try and keep in mind like what the average or slightly below, or slightly less than average, I guess, overall number of potential people playing the game are going to be like. So yeah, we could have it so that we start players off with the 34 card deck size as playing to 5 or 6 agenda points, and then say, hey, do this for like your first 2 games, and then after that you can play to 6, and then when you add the extra 10 cards you can play to 7, or that sort of thing. Like to some degree we do want to have some amount of guided play for people's like first couple games. We'll hopefully be able to have either a downloadable and printable like pamphlet document that explains all the rules and how the game works and what the structure of turns are and all that sort of thing. But we might also be able to have that as like an actual physical thing that comes with the set. Stuff to figure out. But we would like to have a way to ensure that those early games for players aren't going to go on for too long, that aren't going to become like a bit of a drag on them, that they're not going to keep having the same new stuff repeated over and over to them. Because for a lot of players, when you're learning a game for the first time, like you play and you're getting used to it and you learn stuff, and then you realize that like 5 turns ago you did something that's completely ruined your whole game. Like, oh no, I've installed like 3 ice on my remote and only 1 on R&D, and they keep hitting R&D, and I don't have any ice left. What do I do now? I've messed my whole game up. We don't want players to be like stuck in that kind of situation for too long. So yeah, we will definitely be testing the dual decks against each other with new players as well, hopefully, or newer players, or people who have never played Netrunner before. Like I'm definitely going to be leveraging some of my local game dev contacts to try and get like the actual dual decks tested against each other in an environment where no one has played Netrunner before. Yeah, we'll definitely be seeing what sort of agenda point target we want for those first few games for players. And that sort of thing. Yeah.
I don't know if you've played the XCOM board game, but
yes, I have.
The tutorial on that sprung to mind there because it starts teaching you the game, and as soon as it says "Okay, tutorial over," it becomes bastard hard. So you've generally lost within a turn or two.
Yeah, exactly.
So, that's the kind of thing that's easily done. I've got a group of people that I'm lined up to test this out with, see how we get on. But 5 agenda points is quite a reasonable. Okay, so what have we got left?
Yeah, I guess depending on the next question, I can pass off to Dave.
I've got one actually that was good for both of you, so good for handing over. Predictions on who will win US Nats, and also, what decks. Any predictions?
Yeah, go ahead. I'll let Dave.
Let me know if you've swapped over.
Passing over.
Honestly, I don't want to hazard a guess, partly because, hey, now I'm on record and I can be pointed out as, haha, you're wrong. But, I mean, I guess one of the things that I want to say, I'm happy that we can pat ourselves on the back a little, is that one of the reasons it's hard to predict is because I think we being Nisei, but, OP and hopefully Jev and design in terms of the set itself, currently I think there are a large number of archetypes on both sides that are quite capable of putting in massive work. I mean, obviously the Pencil's winning Worlds Ace deck is still plenty strong, and there are various flavors of Anarch that are quite powerful. Yeah, I'm not going to hazard a guess at a name because I don't know exactly who's going to be making it, but yeah. I'm going to give my non-answer, which is there will be a corp being played and there will be a runner being played. So
yeah. My prediction is that it's going to be won by someone playing Ken Tenma, and he will take everybody by surprise because no one sees him coming. When was the last time?
I think we'll have to possibly
won a deck with Ken. Like, you could barely we might
win a
game
have to wait
with
until
Ken.
the deck bid for that, but yeah. Morgan?
I'll pass it back to Morgan. See if Morgan wants. Morgan, would you like to have a guess as to who or what is going to win Worlds?
So probably the biggest blocker for me is I don't actually know who's going to be attending in terms of people. I do still pay attention to Standard. Obviously I paid attention to Worlds and a lot of the regionals and stuff like that, but I'm in deep scrum mode right now. I have exams in 2 weeks and I have work stuff going on, and I just got back from work trip and I've been working away on this, so I have no idea what the meta in the US is right now. So I couldn't hazard a guess as to who. I definitely think it'll either be some flavor of fully operational based HB, or I think it might potentially be some kind of Jinteki deck running low cost of grid. Just because I imagine the runner side meta is going to kind of prepare itself for those Acer decks. And I think in the process of doing this, so they'll probably lose some of their strength against those IG ones. Not IG ones, those Jinteki ones. There's also the IG decks that I know are fairly prevalent in some parts of North America. that could definitely take it to, maybe. Freedom is still definitely around. I reckon Freedom could definitely pretty much do a good showing. My heart of hearts really wants like Leela to win, because Leela is not long for this world, in the standard world, unfortunately. So I'd like to see her win something before she rotates.
Yeah, it would be nice if we had a championship one with a flat line.
No, that'd be cool. Actually,
that's
I'd
what
like
I want
to
to
see
see.
a flatline win. Have we had has a Worlds actually been won by a flatline before?
In the last ever game? Come on, chat. Does anyone know? Worlds or a Nats or a Continental?
Has Worlds been won by a flatline?
Anyone won with a flatline? The first one. Okay.
The very first one? Yeah, I wondered if because that was the very first one was won by
presumably a
Wayland,
June
right?
bug, or was it a Sea Scourge?
Junebug kill.
I
That
think
would be beautiful.
The first one was
yes.
Yeah, I thought so.
So I wouldn't be surprised if it was like one.
Nice. Okay.
One by
that's
some
made me
sort of
happy
flatline.
At that point, I was just playing with one of my with my regular testing partner, Paul, and we were so non-competitive. In fact, our first GNK we ever went to only won 2 games, and they were against him, and it was his birthday. So I felt quite bad, but
yeah. So I guess ultimately I've given a sort of a slightly more elongated cop-out answer, similar to Dave. But yeah, I don't know enough about the exact current conditions of the North American scene to give a proper estimation. But I definitely think the sort of decks I just talked about then are contenders. Yeah.
See, I'm gonna say it's gonna be a Kentenma and a kill deck, and if I'm wrong, but if I'm right, I will be seen as a genius. I think we're pretty much out. Oh, let me just have a quick check of no questions in future. It's System Gateway or System Core out first?
Let's think. We're testing them in tandem because obviously they do kind of lean on each other a lot. Well, I guess more the new System Core leans on System Gateway a lot because obviously we're cutting all these cards from System Core because they won't be necessary with the addition of System Gateway. So it's likely that System Gateway will be in terms of System Core in terms of testing will be ready before System Gateway will be. As to whether it'll be released early, we'll have to see about that. We may well end up releasing them together or around the same time, but we could definitely release System Core 2020 sooner. But yeah, there's no chance of System Gateway coming out before System Core 2020. That's probably the best answer I can give to that.
Yeah. I mean, it would make sense for them to come out together, to be honest, considering that there are going to be some cards that have moved from Core to Gateway.
Yes.
So
there are some ways we can deal with that in terms of for Standard or for Core Experience at the moment. I won't speak to them, of course, because there's a whole bunch of different ways we can do it. But it all depends on timing. When will all the art for both sets be done? Will we have enough of a gap between when we could release System Core 2020 prior to System Gateway that it's worth doing so? Obviously, releasing them both together means people have to pay less on shipping if they buy them together, that sort of thing. So there's lots and lots of variables involved in the timing of the two of them being released. I know people are probably clamoring for exactly when these are going to be released. I'm going to say that, Lord willing, we will have both of them out by the first, by the end of the first half of next year. I would like to say much sooner. But I mean, this is System Gateway is a set that we absolutely have to get right, and that there's a lot more playtesting vectors involved in getting it right. So I can't really speak to a more specific release date than that. And probably even if I actually had one, I probably wouldn't be able to tell you anyway. But yeah, we'd like to have it done by the end of both of them out by the end of the first half of next year.
Tentatively, we're kind of hoping for first third, so by the end of April, but we can't obviously make any promises on that because with this being a new player product, we have to absolutely nail it. We can't afford to have people try it and go, this is shit. So we'd rather it be a little bit late than not perfect. So I'm going to swing back to David.
Ren, would I be?
Yeah, swinging back to David. Let him. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess just to elaborate on that again, the first third of next year is the tentative / hopeful. We would really like that to be the case, but and I think it's likely, almost certainly that System Core will be ready before Gateway. But in terms of precisely when they are released, we're still, contemplating how we do that. I guess to tie into one of the questions that I've seen a couple of times, will Core 20 be smaller with some cards moving to System Gateway? That is also part of the difficulty because if we remove cards from System Core and put them in Gateway, if System Core comes out before Gateway, then theoretically some of the cards that are intended as fundamental and intended to stay actually aren't here. As Morgan said, we have ways to, I guess, artificially, but just ways to ensure that is not not actually the limiting factor. But yeah, again, in terms of being out as soon as possible, I guess here's where I do my, if in terms of actually having the product out as soon as possible, just really as much support, whatever it might, in whatever form it might take, to keep the wonderful game alive, whether it's applying for playtesting. We're going to have additional positions open soon within Nisei, whether it's purchasing products if you haven't already, or Patreon or the like. Any assistance actually that you can provide will, help get us more likely to meeting that goal of time period. I know that there are, a non-trivial number of players that have felt that our pace of release has been slower than they would like, but the limitations are what they are, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and with that will speed up as well. So, I mean, if you look at how long it took to get Downfall out from the moment that work began on it to it actually being a product that you could buy, and then the gap from Downfall to Uprising coming out is smaller, and we will, every time we go around the cycle we learn. And the other thing that we're also doing is we're building in breaks so no one burns out, because Downfall was very much a get it all done, and then everyone just kind of collapsed for 2 months afterwards, which didn't really help. If you want to throw money at us, we have a Patreon. We also have a PayPal account you can just enter if you don't want anything for it, but we have a Patreon. You get ad-free NRDB, wallpapers and stuff. Yeah, we're tightening up processes. We're getting better. We also have a lot less stuff to do now that all the glyphs exist, all the templates exist. Don't think you can get crown drawings anymore, Aki. Something we did for the very top tier donators, but unless we open up some more slots for that, which actually we could have a conversation about internally. Maybe we will. It gives you the chance to get your name on cards. Where was I going? I forgot what I was saying before Aki distracted me with carry on drawings. Damn it, Aki, I should stop reading the chat while I'm talking. Yes. Yeah, so like we'll get faster. Things will happen at a more steady pace, and probably by the time we hit set 4 or product 4, you will, like 4 to 3 I expect, sorry 3 to 4 I expect will be a consistent timing. Like that will probably be how long it takes from that point, from set to set to set, because we should have learnt all of our stuff there. And I've just got a message that Morgan would like to chat, so take it away, Morgan. Don't forget I can hear you, by the way, so if you want to talk, I can hear you. So
no, I'm having to mute myself as well, because something weird is going on and people can hear whenever I do anything else, even if I'm, muted or whatever. People always want to know, like how, like what can Nisse do to release stuff faster? What can Nisse do to get things tested faster and finished faster and all this, that, and the other. And I mean, the reality is, like, we're effectively a modding team combined with fan fiction writers. Like that's sort of like the weird sort of combination we are. And so life stuff will always get in the way of this. It's not like it's actually our paid work that we have to prioritize to feed ourselves and pay our bills, etc. So we can get setbacks all the time. Stuff can slow down all the time, that sort of thing. So it is ultimately kind of a bit of a measure of it's done when it's done, and there's not a lot that can be done like instantaneously to fix that. So there are some things that can be done to help. And as both Dave and Ren already mentioned, you can subscribe to the Patreon. You can do it for just 1 month and send us some stuff and then stop, or you can do it for indefinite periods of time. You can buy our products. You can buy anything else that we happen to release between now and whenever. You can buy actual copies of the Mopus set that we did. Trying to think of the name. But probably the two big things right now is one, I believe someone mentioned that we are going to be having some recruitment stuff for actual internal NSA roles opening up soon. If you're disgruntled with how quickly we are releasing stuff, and you want to try and help us get things done faster, and you think you can actually offer some help in regards to any of these new openings that we have, apply. Come and join us. Come and help us get that stuff done. And the second one is, I can always use more playtesters. Seriously, I can always use more playtesters. There are very, very few requirements for being a playtester. You could have bought the game last week, and I will embrace you with open arms and probably help you learn. And in fact, you would probably be invaluable for testing System Gateway. I encourage anyone to come and apply for playtesting. Pretty much the only requirements are, one, don't be a jerk. I am very protective of my playtesters, and introducing anyone into the playtest community who is going to be disruptive and frustrating and make the community a lesser as a result, then I'm not terribly keen on having them, those people stick around. And two, you need to have some amount of time commitment that you can offer. Even if it's not that much, it just needs to be predictable and consistent. We're going to be having details coming up probably in the next week or so for new applications for playtest. I've been in the I've been in the dev mines for like the last few weeks, so I haven't had too much of a chance to
place.
Yeah, I haven't had too much of a chance to update all of the playtesting application stuff yet, but I'm hoping to get that done this week before I am in true exam study hell. So we'll definitely have that firing on the website and all forms of social media and Slack and Facebook and all that jazz about, please come and apply to come play test with us. I will welcome you all with open arms, as long as you're, enthusiastic and ready and happy to be active. Don't just like join just to get access to all this early stuff, to get to look at all the peaks, get all the scoops, and then not actually do anything. We want people who are going to join and are going to be active and contribute, and that kind of thing. The playtesters that we have found it really rewarding and really enjoyable to help us shape the future of the game. And if that sort of thing is something you'd really love to do and that something that really speaks to you, then yeah, please do apply. That'd be great. I can't think of any other ways that I can suggest that people directly support us. But there are lots of ancillary ways, which are just like, keep playing Netrunner, keep running events in your local communities, keep doing what you can to get new players involved in whatever way you can. And keep talking about us on social media, on forums, on whatever. Just the more people we have interested in this game, the better our communities become, and the better the game can become as a product of that. I mean, consider our worlds barely a month or so ago, it was like the third biggest Netrunner worlds there's ever been. And there are tons of people who wanted to go and just weren't able to. The community for this game is still strong and good. And while it's definitely quieter in some areas than there are others, I definitely think we have tons of capacity for expanding this community. Especially that's why we're focusing on this product as our next one. And the more people we have involved and excited and enthusiastic about the game and what we're doing here at NISA, send us your energy and we will make a really good Netrunner Spirit Bomb.
I was hoping you were going that way. Nice.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that Morgan touched on is play in a public space, go and play in game shops, play in a pub, play in a cafe. And if someone comes up to you and says, "Oh, what are you doing?" tell them. Don't just say, "Oh, we're playing a game." Hype it up. Use big hype energy. Yes, that was a Dragon Ball reference, Aki, and I'm doing it again, looking at the chat. Right, okay. Are there any more questions? Because I'm pretty sure we are now done.
Yeah, I would just say, for me, I don't have anything further to note aside from be great people.
Yeah, sorry. David says be great people. Sorry. I started talking before I unmuted. So I have to scroll up and down the list because David's at the top and Morgan's at the bottom. So I have to scroll.
There was one other. I knew there was one other question.
Right, go on. You're up again, Morgan.
I know there was one other question that I saw in chat. People were asking what the name of my cat is. And my cat is called Daeg, spelt Daeg, and he has a Twitter account. And I can link that in chat if people want to see photos of my cat. In fact, for every new playtester I get, I will post a photo of Daeg being really cute. I could even do that for new Patreon people. I could even add more.
Is this like bribery? I I don't.
It's not bribery.
I feel
it's
ethically compromised here.
It's like incentives. It's like responsive incentives. Yeah. I mean, look. To be honest, I'm going to post photos of my cat anyway, so whatever.
So Snoopy just reminded me with the scoops ? Scoops start in 26 days. No, 25 days. Starts on the 26th. So in about 4 hours shy of 25 days, we will start spoiler season for Uprising. So
yeah, and I think I've already dropped an accidental scoop, and I gave 4 scoops. I told you 4 cards that are going to be in System Gateway. That's scoops, folks.
So yeah, we've got quite an interesting community week lined up. There's more people involved this year than there was for the previous one. So we've taken on board a load of the feedback, so we're going to have a product page where everything is linked back to, which will continue to have the date on, and I'll collect all the articles. Will all this info be posted on eSay.net? Why, yes, it quite probably will be. However, it won't be immediate because I'm going to have to watch back the video and transcribe it all, then pass it to editors. So, Nisei website update when? That is a very good question. The web dev team are working really hard on this, and it's coming, but we're doing lots of very cool things, such as baking in translation capabilities from the beginning. So you will be able to go to a page and it will go, hey, you're in France, do you want to see this in French? Let's get this as we have a big team of translators. They're all fantastic. So we're going to get some more articles, the important articles translated, all the important pages translated, so it's not just in English. Because if we have the cards out there in Italian, Chinese, Korean, whatnot, why should we just put the information up in English? System Gateway does not replace System Core, except as a concept of as a beginning product. This is a question for response to Professor Wacko. System Core will still exist. It will be the second product we recommend for new players.
Gateway replaces some of the purpose of System Core, but doesn't replace the need for a kind of fundamental core set of cards for the standard meta for each year.
We will still continue to have annual System Core updates. This one will actually be out in 2020, so we won't be doing the whole Microsoft thing of naming it after the year is not in yet at the time of release.
We'll see how we go then.
Hopefully that will stay that way, because I've got to be honest, it really bugs me when people name a product after the year it's legal, like out in, not the year it came out in, if you get me.
I think that's really about it.
Yeah, this is about it. So if anyone has any questions, either chuck it up in the chat or chuck it up in future, because I don't have time to monitor anything else.
Yep. I'll be around subs,
I'm
a
not
little
even
bit.
That is not related to this. So
yeah, I'll be around for the next I don't know, a couple hours or so. If people have further questions, you can tag me on StimSlack or on Facebook, or tweet at me at AnsK on Twitter. Tweet at me, that sort of thing. If I can answer it, I will answer it.
If you're going to do it on StimSlack, do it in the future channel, because that way everyone will know where to go.
Yeah, do it in the future channel.
That way Morgan doesn't have to repeat themselves 50 times with 50 different PMs.
Exactly. Yeah. I guess other than that, I'll just say one last little bit, and then Dave can say final bit. But thanks for tuning in, everyone. It's been worth getting up at 5 a.m. to do this. It's been fun. It's been nice to have all the questions. It's nice to see how many viewers we've actually had for this, and how many people have been, really engaged in coming in, listen to a bunch of talking heads talk about a theoretical future product. And I would show my cat again, but he is out of the room, and I'd have to get up and go find him and come back. So maybe I'll do that one day.
You'll just have to like go and follow the cat's Instagram account or Twitter account rather.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Twitter account, exactly that.
Cool. Thank
All
you.
right.
I will pass
yeah.
over to
Thanks
Dave
again.
for final words. Dave, you're on.
My final words, again, are just thanks for tuning in. It has been great. I'm going to say that I'm actually incredibly excited about upcoming scoops for Uprising because I'm just a fraction, just a tiny wee bit biased, but I think Uprising is fantastic. It's better than Downfall. I mean, as happens is human nature. I think we've improved as we have iterated, as the process has continued, and will only continue to improve. Uprising is fantastic. Get hype. It's the real deal. But yeah, thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, I have to back David up on this. I was going through the Uprising cards to sort out the stuff for spoiler season, and I was just like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. So I'm really looking forward to playing with these and, well, showing them off to you lot first. Because if you're not aware, I don't look at the cards until we start spoiler season. Because I like to maintain my level of hype to the kind of levels where I think you lot will be at. That makes writing about it more fun. So yeah, thank you for tuning in to our very first live stream. We seem to get there in the end after the few audio hiccups. We will be doing more of these now we know this wasn't a complete fucking disaster. So I will be shouting about what that is soon. Might get one more in between now and spoiler season starts, but it's more likely to be between Uprising's release and Christmas, just because, you know, spoiler season is going to take a lot out of everybody, especially me. I might cry. Yeah, cool. Thank you very much for tuning in. We'll be putting this up on YouTube like pretty soon, and it will be available on Twitch video on demand for however long Twitch bothers to store it for. So okay, cool. Yes, 9 hours worth of cat cam. Oh, little fuzzy kitty. My cat is being lazy. She's like asleep. Oh, she's woken up and gone back to sleep. So, alright, cool. Thanks
Till the
everybody.
next time.
See you soon.